Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined by Sean Zerillo and Grant Neiffer for a very special opening day player prop episode. We're going to hit all 14 games, pull out the best player props, and give you an opportunity to build that bankroll from day one, at least in earnest, of the Major League Baseball season. And a reminder, you can hear best bets every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday morning throughout the regular season. So subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and find us on Action Network's YouTube page as well. We greatly appreciate those 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you want to say, wherever you want to say it, and whatever you want to say. As long as it comes with those 5-star reviews, we really appreciate it. We love to hear from you moving forward throughout the season. All right, let us hop in here and talk player prop strategy, philosophy overall. I'll kick it to you first, Sean, in terms of your thoughts on this upcoming season and some storylines that you believe will impact the player props that you're targeting.
Yeah, no game in Tampa Bay on Thursday, but I believe we do have one on Friday. Want to see where the total opens for that ballpark because as we've discussed on the preseason shows, it is Yankee Stadium, but with better weather, warmer weather, especially at this time of year, April, May. Later in the year, it's September. Weather just going to be improved, a little bit warmer, but also different wind patterns relative to Yankee Stadium. So should play much more of an offensive park, especially compared to Tropicana Field. Rays hitter props, should be juiced a little bit more this year. Left-handed home runs should be a little bit easier to come by. Brandon Lowe, home run props, will be taking a close look at on a daily basis. Josh Lowe as well. So Rays props and then A's props as well. Once they start playing in Sacramento, that should be a very good offensive park this season. Maybe even one of the better ones in baseball, like potentially up there with Cincinnati. Not quite Colorado level. Nobody else is going to approach Colorado level, which is about 30% above the big league average. Cincinnati is closer to 15% above the major league average. I really do think Sacramento could end up playing in that neighborhood, maybe about 10% above the big league average. And again, Oakland played about 90% of the big league average, just like Tropicana Field. So you're talking about substantial offensive upgrades for both of those teams this year, downgrades for their pitching staffs when they're pitching at home, but upgrades to all their hitters, upgrades in fantasy, upgrades in DFS, and obviously in the hitter prop market. So just keep a very close eye on games taking place in Tampa Bay and Oakland. And if we're going to find value on the overs, it's probably going to be over the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. If that does happen, there will then be a subsequent period of over adjustment where we then find value betting the unders, which we typically see when there is like a big boon of overs at one point. There's a market overcorrection in the other direction. So just keep a very close eye on the way these trend. And if they do trend positively towards the overs early, there will be an overcorrection to the under at some point.
Now, Grant, before you step into the batter's box and take a swing at your first home run prop of the season, let's talk about the most fundamental element of player props, at least from the batting perspective, and that's equipment. That's the baseball. What are you hearing about the baseballs this year?
I mean, it's not just from the batter's perspective. It can also have a massive effect on pitchers. So we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. The ball, is it going to be juiced? Is it not going to be juiced? What is the change year over year? Sean talked about how the last 2 years it's been fairly consistent, but years prior to that, it's been so up and down. So learning to kind of gauge where it's at can have a drastic impact on whether a home run prop has value, whether a strikeout prop has value, based on any number of different spots. It's probably the most important factor over the last 5 years when it comes to betting on home runs and whether odds have an advantage or not. So it's something to look into. I'm going under the assumption that it is going to be the same as the last 2 years. And if things change over the next few weeks, I will be immediately accounting for that, switching everything up. But as of right now, I'm kind of assuming that it'll be the same. We'll see. But I also want to echo what Sean said. Oakland, now Sacramento. That is literally the only bigger or two bigger upgrades would be is if they went into Colorado or if the Giants went to Colorado. That's the only bigger ballpark upgrade. And we've seen it before in the past, guys moving away from Oakland. We saw what Matt Olson did first year or two over in Atlanta. Like, they are getting an absolutely huge ballpark advantage. We talked about this in the preview podcast. Shea Langeliers, Rooker, both of them guys that have a ton of pop, who look at their home road splits when they're in versus out of Oakland. Now you can look at their home road splits, assume the away games are the same, but that they are now essentially playing in Cincinnati for their home games. So absolutely going to be a massive advantage if the books don't fully account for that in the beginning. And over in Sacramento, I think this time of year, Northern California can get a little cold, but that area, a little bit more deserty, could actually have decent weather early on in the season. So when you're looking at home run props, generally books have them juiced a little bit higher just because of these cold weather games. That's why I tend to gravitate more towards domes at this point in the season. But that Sacramento could be a spot where they don't fully have things adjusted correctly because cold weather might not be as much of a factor there. And again, the ballpark's just going to be the biggest upgrade possible for these guys over there and even the opposing team, obviously.
Just out of curiosity, how do you track, some of the trends with the baseball? What would you say is like the canary in the coal mine to say exit velocities up or down, the overall distance of fly balls? Like, what are you targeting to try to get a feel for the potential of the baseball having an impact on these pitcher and batter props?
Statcast has a page of historical, it's called the drag dashboard on Baseball Savant, and you can see the MLB drag rate by date through prior seasons. And on that site, I mean, it's the red herring for the 2019 balls being juiced. The graph for the drag coefficient is all the way down here. And then in 2020, it's up here. And then in 2021, it's up here. Then in 2022, it comes down. So like you can see, where the baseball is going. The lower it is, the more home runs there's going to be. The higher it is, the fewer home runs there's going to be. On 2021, towards the end of that season, you see it spiking all the way up. That's when the deadened balls were kind of introduced. So 2023, 2024, the lines basically go right across. Like they're basically consistent. There was a little bit of a raise at the end of 23, kind of flattened out in 24. So just keep an eye. It's baseballsavant.mlb.com/drag-dashboard. And just, monitor the drag coefficient data and just kind of make sure it's in line with the past couple of seasons. If it's very low, we're going to know those balls have been juiced up. If it's extremely high, we're going to know they deadened them. So we just want to see it continue with where it was the past couple of years.
We're getting started here with Grant's first home run prop of the season, a familiar face to get it started on opening day.
Yeah, and this guy won me a ton of money on home run props at the beginning of last season. Had him at like a 50% hit rate, and that's Mike Trout. Mike Trout, even though he's 33 years old, guy is still really good. Guy is absolutely fantastic. 10 home runs in 19 games last year, 18 in 82 the year before, 40 in 119 the year before that. He's basically over a 50 home run per 162 game home run rate over the last 3 years. It's just over those last 3 years, we've barely gotten 200 games out of him. So Trout has not lost at all. He's actually gotten better power with age. And we're getting plus 400 on him here. Weather over in Chicago for this time of year, not terrible. I mean, there's going to be some scattered showers. We'll see. I'll check more day of what it's going to look like. Roth will give me the update of whether the game could be postponed, the game could be delayed. But right now, I'm just kind of going at, okay, it's probably going to play. It's probably going to be fine. It's probably going to be slightly below average hitting weather, but slightly above average for this time of year. So overall weather, slight downgrade overall for him, but good for this time of year. And then going up against Burke, Burke grades out as a slightly above average home run guy. Could be a pretty darn good pitcher. We don't know yet, obviously, but overall, he grades out as a 1.4, 1.35 home run per 9 pitcher. So above average hitting matchup for power for Mike Trout here. Batting on the road, so that potential extra out at bat. And we're getting a guy, again, that is literally playing like a 50 home run hitter on a per game basis. But if we just adjust to a 40 home run hitter, adjust for the above average power matchup and slightly below average weather conditions, plus 400 is an absolutely silly line. That's what it was at last night. I think it's dropped to plus 380. I'm not sure. I didn't check right before this show. But I would bet it all the way down to plus 350. I mean, Mike Trout is far too good. He's looking healthy. I love him, and he's going to potentially make home run bettors a lot of money earlier on this season, because even last year, it took about 26 games, 25 games for them to finally adjust to his power. And then 3 games later is out the season. So they adjusted at the wrong time, but it didn't even matter. So hope he stays healthy this year. That's going to be a huge thing for him, obviously, as it is every year. Huge thing for the Angels, who could potentially make a push into the playoffs if he stays healthy and they do a little bit better than expectations. But Mike Trout, if you can get it at plus 380, plus 390, plus 400, more books are going to have lines at. Some books may have it at over plus 400 when all the lines finally come out, offering tons of value.
Now, Sean, you're bringing a ton of strikeout props to the table in today's episode. Talk to me about Zerillo and how you view him in this matchup.
Yeah, Zerillo under 5.5 strikeouts. One of 2 10 out of 10 rated props on Action Labs at the moment. Go check out the Payoff Pitch episode I recorded with Sean Kerner that dropped on Monday if you want to know a little bit more about the Action Labs projections for props and why I bet this one in particular and why I didn't bet Sandy Alcantara over 4.5 strikeouts, which is currently rated as a 10 out of 10 prop on there. Because as Sean and I discussed regarding his process, we're going to have these projections a little bit more refined, 9 a.m. Eastern, day of games. There will be projections in there before that. Be a little bit more logical about what you're seeing in there. And in terms of opening day, you can probably assume the pitch count projections for some of these guys may be a little bit high. Be a little bit careful betting the overs that rate highly, because we may need to lower the pitch counts for some of these guys. But the unders should be good to go, right? We're not going to increase the pitch counts for the guys that are already in there. We projected, or Action Labs had Zerillo last night at 4.2 strikeouts. I woke up today, it was at 4.7. When I ran my own projection last night, I put him at 4.8. Happy to take under 5.5 at plus money. I would take under 5 at plus money on Zerillo. Anything even money or better, under 5 strikeouts for Zerillo. The Mariners had the worst strikeout rate in baseball in the first half of last season. I believe at one point they had like 4 of the top 7 total strikeout guys in the American League. Julio, J.P. Crawford. I think Ty France was in there early when he was actually getting at bats. But this team improved a lot in the second half of the season. They moved up to 22nd. They shaved 5% off of that strikeout rate. They moved from about 29.5% to 24%. This year, I think they continue pushing a little bit closer to league average with the lineup that they currently have. Julio may be getting the bat a little bit more on the ball this season. But also, Luis Severino made some intentional changes last year to try to induce weaker contact and not intentionally strike guys out. He used to be a heavy 4-seam slider guy earlier in his career, dealt with injuries, strikeout rate dipped, came to the Mets last season, started throwing a sinker, and that strikeout rate basically stayed the same where it was when he was throwing that 4-seamer, but he was getting more weak contact as a result. So Severino trying to pitch to contact a little bit more as he's developed. The Mariners improving their strikeout rate in the second half. And then also usage rate for opening day. Sevy won a max of 79 pitches in spring. He just signed a multi-year deal with I want to say Oakland, with the Athletics. They're not going to get this guy hurt in an opening day start. He's not going past 90 pitches. He's not going past the 6th inning if he even makes it to the 6th inning. Happy to take Sevy under 5.5 strikeouts at plus money. Again, down to 5 at even money.
If you're digging the player props thus far, but you're looking for sides and totals, fear not. We already have an entire episode in the can. You can go back to your podcast feed and look for our best bets on opening day, a full episode with Grant and Sean there as well. Now, in that episode, Sean, you said that you like the Nats to win their home opener at plus 150 on the money line. And a big reason for that is you think that there's a high likelihood that Weaver doesn't go beyond 90 pitches in this game. That kind of plays into this player prop for you.
It does. Wheeler under 6.5 strikeouts at minus 143. Another Action Labs recommended bet. They put him at 5.3, bet the under 6.5 minus 150. I think I'm okay with it up to about minus 160. Now, Wheeler also, like Severino, went very sinker heavy early in the year last year. He likes to introduce his 4-seamer a little bit more as the year goes on. Once he gets into the playoffs, he'll start increasing the velocity on the 4-seamer a little bit. I mean, Zach Wheeler is the best pitcher of this generation, probably. Knows how to add and subtract better than anybody else, knows how to get his body in the right shape as the season progresses. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But the Nationals really do not strike out very much. And especially with the current lineup that they have, once they brought all these guys like Dylan Cruz and James Wood to the big leagues, they really didn't strike out. They finished second over the final 2 months of 2024 with a 19% strikeout rate, 19.9%, so near 20%, but they were second in baseball. There was only one team better than them. I don't want to, the Royals had the lowest strikeout rate in baseball last season. We'll get to them in a minute. Over the second half or the final 2 months, I don't think it was them that was ahead of the Nationals, but the Nats, not only did they avoid the strikeout, they also attempted steals at an extremely high clip, which is going to make Wheeler a little bit more uncomfortable too. Probably going to be looking for sinkers to get double plays. If he gets runners on first base to try to eliminate those base runners. So multiple reasons. Wheeler likely to go a little bit sinker heavy earlier in the season. The Nationals, a difficult offense to strike out. And again, as you said, Mike, probably not going past 90 pitches on opening day. Looking at his prior opening day starts, that's roughly how long they let him go the first couple of starts of the season. And then based upon his spring usage as well, he's not pushing past that. So yeah, Wheeler under 6.5. I think a very strong chance of finishing at exactly 6 or 5 here.
Now, Grant, you think that Hunter Green for the Reds is going to have some pitches that end up in the bleachers. Which player are you targeting to go yard?
So first, I'm going with Chapman. Chapman, I think you can get at plus 370. I think I saw it somewhere at plus 400, but that went down pretty quickly. So plus 370 over DK last time I checked. And Hunter Green is just had such an interesting year last year. I mean, 1.7 home runs per nine his first season, 1.5 in 2023, 0.7 last year. Home run to fly ball rate, 16%, 16%, 6.9% last season. And this is playing over in Cincy. Really does not make sense. He does not grade out as a pitcher that is going to only allow 0.7 home run per nine. Grades out as a guy that's well above average matchup, 4 home runs, should be around 1.4 to potentially 1.5 home run per nine pitcher. Guy throws heat, and they should be leaving the ballpark playing over there in Cincy. So Chapman, a guy who has been a great power hitter in the past. Over in Oakland, obviously had 36 that 1 year. Had a rough stretch over in Toronto with only 27-17. Seems to fix some things last season, 27 home runs while playing over in San Francisco. So he gets one of the biggest home run park upgrades possible, going from San Francisco to playing over in Cincinnati. So we can kind of grade this guy out as playing in Cincinnati, being close to a 40 home run hitter over the course of 162 games there. So overall plus matchup going up against Hunter, and plus 370 is a little bit too low. Weather's going to be mid-50s, low 50s, I believe, that day. We'll see tomorrow, day of. I'll look into Roth. But as of right now, obviously below average hitting weather everywhere that's being played outside. But not terrible overall weather for this point in the season. Lower odds than I generally like, but I just like the matchup here. Chapman, I think, is underrated, and I think he's in for a better year, especially when he's playing in good ballparks and has a ton of pop. So plus 370, way too low of a line. When we get to my next hitter, we'll get a little bit higher odds.
March is the best month of the year, not just for sports, but also for getting the best deal on Action Pro. Right now, you can get Action Pro for just over $5 a month for the entire year. So that means that you obviously get March, which means the NCAA tournament, which is in full swing. With an Action Network Pro account, you'll get Sean Kerner's bracket simulations, Nick Giffin's player props, as well as Stuckey's picks 30 minutes before they go out to everyone else, and more. Now, also, when you consider getting Action Pro, you're going to be covered for not only the Major League Baseball season, but everything that happens this fall. That's the NFL and college football seasons as well. And if you go to actionnetwork.com right now /March, you can get on board for just $5 a month. All right, let's hop back into another under here on strikeouts from Sean. We're going to look at the Guardians versus Royals in Kansas City.
Tanner Bybee under 4.5 strikeouts. If you jump to our best bets for opening day, I bet the over in this game as well. So increased chance that Bybee gets hit, gets removed early as a result of getting hit. Action Labs put this strikeout projection at 4.3. They have the under 4.5 at even money rated as a 7 out of 10 in terms of their props. Usually I look to the 8 out of 10s or higher. But in terms of, me projecting the over on this game, leaning under on Bybee, very comfortable betting this at plus money, plus 100 or better, even money or better. That is where the market is currently, where I fired at it last night. The Royals last year had the lowest strikeout rate in baseball at home, 17.9%, which is astonishing. They were 3% higher on the road. Now, it's not drastic for teams to have worse plate discipline numbers on the road as compared at home. Also, some ballparks just have way better batter's eye, and it's easier to see the ball, at some parks than it is at others. But there were points last season where the Royals were like far and away number one in strikeout rate at home, and then closer to like 15th or 20th on the road. The split was even more drastic to the point where in the offensive splits, we were joking that like they were clearly cheating at home because the splits were so phenomenally wide between the two. And maybe they are doing something. I don't know. But regardless, we're getting the Royals at home here going against Bybee, and they should continue to be one of the more difficult teams to strike out this season. Added Jonathan India to the top of the lineup. He's about a 20% strikeout rate, so he fits in right with the rest of this group, 20% or below, almost across the board on the strikeout rates for this team, except for Salvi. Now, both of these teams are off Friday. The Guardians do rely on their bullpen. That is their identity. And considering the off day, how they take it game by game, I think you could get very aggressive bullpen usage behind Bybee here. You saw the way they used their bullpen behind him in the playoffs. Obviously, this is not a playoff game. It's opening day. You don't want to burn out the bullpen. But with that off day, I think you get increased chance that you get the higher leverage relievers in here a little bit earlier. Bybee also only threw 83 pitches in his last outing. Probably not going to push above or past 90 on opening day, especially based on prior starts. So Bybee under 4.5, plus money, even money or better, I'm comfortable with, but that's where I'd cut it off. I wouldn't go beyond that. I mean, maybe minus 105 is fine, but that's about it. And just consider, in terms of building out same game parlays, the over with the Bybee under strikeouts, etc. Like, I'm trying to give out a bunch of things here that I do think, as Mike said, the Nationals and the Wheeler under that correlate with one another. So if you're building out SGPs, if you're using bonus bets on opening days, giving you at least a couple of legs to work with here that we could build off of.
All right, Grant, you promised something a little bit spicier here. I'm looking at the sheet, plus 650 for a guy who hit 30 bombs last year. Walk me through this one.
Yeah, seems like kind of a silly line, doesn't it? A guy who hit 30 home runs last year and 4 years ago hit 48. A guy who's a home run derby champion, Vlad, with one of the best baseball players ever as a father, or at least one of my favorite baseball players ever. Yeah, just seems like a silly number here. And I mean, I know there's been talk like Vlad doesn't hit as many bombs over in Toronto, but we look at last year, 15 on the road, 15 at home. So that's not really a thing. That was random variance. Good home run hitter in a contract year. Matchup versus Eflin, slightly above average to around average. Yes, the bullpen is tough going over against Baltimore, but this is strictly a number play. We're getting plus 650. Again, a lot of lines are juiced up for this time of the year. They're playing in Toronto. They don't really have to worry about weather too much. It's in a dome. So weather, not an issue. Ballpark, maybe slightly below average, right around average. And we're getting plus 650 on a guy who hit one once every 5 games last year at home, once every 6 games last year. So plus 650 in a slightly below average matchup, if you include the bullpen, is just an absolutely ridiculous number for Vlad here. I'm rolling with it. This is a don't think twice when you get these types of odds on Vlad and in a neutral to slightly below average spot.
This next one that you have, Sean, really has my interest for a starting pitcher who started just 4 games in his entire career. So moving from the bullpen as a reliever to a starter for the New York Mets. You like over on his strikeout props. Walk me through why you like Clay Holmes so much.
Yeah, Clay Holmes over 3.5, juiced at about minus 165. Over 4.5 is plus 128. Action Labs puts him at 4.6. And I'm comfortable with that projection and comfortable betting the over because he threw 88 pitches in his last spring outing. This guy should be the Mets' most effective starting pitcher coming into the season. I talked about it on our game props or our best bets episode for opening day. But the Mets have basically optimized Holmes and hopefully fixed the issue that he's had historically against lefties. Career 2.9 expected FIP versus righties, 4.3 versus lefties. So a massive lefty-righty split. He has an elite slider, near 170 stuff plus. He has an elite sinker. Career 66% ground ball rate is one of the highest in the league. So him and Framber Valdez should keep the ball on the ground for the entirety of that game while they're in there. But I do think Holmes should push close to 90, 95 pitches on opening day based off of his last spring outing. He struck out 23 of the 72 hitters he faced in spring using this new kick change with the slider, with the sinker. I think this guy's fully optimized now, able to attack both lefties and righties. Strikeout rate is one of the quicker things to stabilize. And I know it's a limited sample in spring, 72 batters. You can start to stabilize strikeout rate in, 5 starts, 6 starts. So not quite that sample in spring. But if he continues that 30-plus strikeout rate in April of this season, you can expect him to maintain that the rest of the way going forward. And if he does, he's going to be a National League Cy Young candidate, legitimately. Like adding one pitch and seeing if he can pitch it, seeing if he can extend out from 60 innings to 150 innings. Those are the two challenges. And it seems like he's already completed one of them. So yeah, at this point, stamina and effectiveness over a full season are my main concerns for Holmes. On a per inning basis, he looks like a guy who's going to potentially be dominant. That strikeout rate in spring training screams over at 3.5. And Action Lab still says there's value on over 4.5 at plus 128. I probably wouldn't go past plus 125 if you're betting the 4.5. I wouldn't go past minus 170 or minus 175 at the 3.5. But this is a guy who should have a breakout season. And it's not just Juan Soto who's going to be making Yankees fans lament their offseason. I think Clay Holmes is going to be a big part of it too.
Now, Grant, you were basically making the case for the value of Guerrero plus 650, someone who's hit 40-plus home runs, who's won a home run derby, as you mentioned. Ramos from the Giants is somebody who looks like he could be in that next crop of great power hitters. He hit 22 home runs last season in about 120 games, and he certainly is going to be somebody who's going to flirt with 30 if he plays the full season this year. He's priced at 7-1. This seems like a number that won't be around just in 2 weeks from now if he gets off to a hot start. Is that what you're trying to do here, grabbing the value early in the season?
Yeah, no, I just don't really fully understand this line, to be honest. Yes, 30 might be a little tough for him to get this season, but that's mostly because he's playing over in San Francisco. He's not playing over in San Francisco today. Again, he's playing over in Cincy versus Hunter Green, a guy that I already mentioned. Fluke year last year when it came to home run to fly ball variance, especially going up against righties that historically prior to last season, he was like a 1.7 guy, 1.75 guy, home runs per 9 to righties. The variance just hit right for him all season, especially playing in that ballpark. Not expecting that again this year. You already said it. Ramos last year, 22 home runs. Most projection systems have him right around that, some a little higher, some a little lower, but that's over the course of around 130 games. So you project not playing in San Francisco, so playing in Cincinnati over the course of 162 game season, probably closer to 32 home run guy, all things considered. Getting what should be a above average matchup going up against Green, slightly below average hitting weather, but great ballpark, and plus 700 just in no way makes sense at all. This line, honestly, I could see dropping down to, even when he's playing in San Francisco, plus 550 in the not too distant future. This guy has a lot of pop, around a 14% barrel rate last season. So this guy has power in a good power matchup, in a good power ballpark, and we're getting plus 700. Just seems like a terribly off line. This is probably the most value I have on any home run bet all day for opening day. So, if you can get it before the line starts moving.
I want to just jump in on that. I really like that bet, Grant. If Ramos plays, per Statcast, if Ramos played every game in Cincinnati last season, he hits 33 homers instead of 22. So 35 plus power, I think very reasonable. It's the only guy to ever hit an opposite-handed home run out to right field in the water in San Francisco. Just like crazy in-game power, but also, mathematically, like the Cincinnati park upgrade versus San Francisco, it's just a great shout by you. I don't think there is a bigger upgrade for right-handed power. I believe the Giants are 30th for right-handed power. I'm not sure if the Reds are first, but the overall park is number 1 for home runs. So yeah, massive park upgrade for these Giants hitters. And it does seem like the betting market is kind of lining these guys based off of their season-long projections as opposed to adjusted projections based on the park they're in. So very interesting with Ramos. That's one I might jump on.
We're going to close out here with your final player props. And Sean, in your preview of the Nationals against the Phillies, you talked about the advantage potentially on the base paths for the Nats and what they have to do in the running game. Talk me through how you're targeting multiple players to steal some bases here.
Yeah, again, same game parlays. I think you could mix in some Nats stolen base props. If I'm betting them straight, I think C.J. Abrams plus 370 and James Wood plus 550 offer better value than Young at plus 450 or Cruz at plus 230. So, but those are the four guys I'd target. Those are the four guys who run the most on that team. Luis Garcia runs a little bit too. He's way below those guys in sprint speed. All these guys are like 75th percentile above in sprint speed. Young, Cruz are both like 95th percentile and above. Wood is in the 70th percentile. Garcia is like 25th percentile. He's just a good base stealer. He's a smart base runner. Probably wouldn't bet his props though. But based off of how the Nationals finished last year, I would be surprised if they don't send guys on opening day. They faced Wheeler 3 times last season. They didn't even attempt one steal against him. There were starts where they scored runs off of him. They had opportunities. He's generally improved his ability to cut down base runners, to hold base runners during his time with the Phillies. He was awful at it with the Mets. The Mets are typically terrible at holding base runners. Syndergaard, it was like the big Achilles heel for him. But basically all those guys who were developed there at the same time, DeGrom, like none of them are good at holding runners. Wheeler got better at it with the Phillies. He also has JT Realmuto, who's been one of the better defensive catchers at preventing stolen bases throughout his career. But last year, Wheeler permitted 8 steals on 11 attempts. And I think the Nationals, based on how aggressively they run, are likely to run here on opening day against him. No team ran more aggressively in the second half than the Nationals last year. They attempted 123 steals in 65 games. That's 1.9 per game. The first half, they were closer to 1.8 per game, and I think they were 4th or 5th in total steal attempts. Second half, they were first by 20 stolen base attempts. Like, it was a big margin compared to second place. Abrams, 49 games, 18 steal attempts in the second half. Young, Wood, also 18 steal attempts, closer to 65 games for those guys. Dylan Cruz had 15 in 31 games, so he runs a ton. And that's why his odds are down closer to plus 230. Abrams had some chemistry stuff going on with the Nationals late in the year. He got suspended for pulling an all-nighter at a casino when they were in Chicago. They ended up sending him down to the minor leagues, but he just like kind of seemed checked out at the end of the year. He should be batting leadoff for them on opening day. If he is, they trust him to be back in there. Plus 370 to steal. Looks like a good bet to me. And just based on how much he ran last year per game, James Wood at plus 550 looks like a good bet as well. We're gonna have to nickname James Wood the combo meal. I'm expecting a lot of homer steal games from James Wood this year. I think he's a future 30-30, if not 40-40 guy. Love the talent. Needs a better nickname than Woody. It's my only comment.
All right, let's close it out here, Grant, with your final pick. It seems like the common thread on all your home run props is proven power hitters. Jake Berger hit 29 last year with the Marlins. He's got a new home, and he's going off at 5-1 on opening day. Talk me through this one.
Yeah, it's always funny. People are like, give me a sleeper pick. I'm like, my goal is not to give you a sleeper pick. My goal is to make money, and generally proven power hitters who are undervalued are the best way to do it. We talked about it with Trout. We just talked about it with Ramos. Like Trout, maybe great, but people don't realize how good he is with power. We talked about it with Chapman. We've talked about it with all these guys, and they're all proven power hitters that are undervalued based on what the books assume of them. And Jake Berger fits that profile perfectly. We only have a 2 full season sample size of him, 34 in his first season, 29 last season. Now, 29 may not seem like a lot, but then you look at his first to second half splits, and I've gone into this far deeply. I'm very high on Berger for the entire season. I think he could be a 40 home run guy. He was injured for the first half of the season, dealing with just an injury pretty much the entire time. 10 home runs in 73 games. Go to the second half of the season, 19 home runs in 64 games. That's a 50 home run pace there, basically over 162 game sample size. That is huge. This guy is a big guy who hits the ball hard, and he's going from playing over in Miami to playing over in Texas, which is a big ballpark upgrade. Matchup is not great. I will give you that. Crochet, one of the best pitchers in the league, but overall for power last year, around 1.2 home runs per 9 given up to righties. Most projection systems have him regressing a little bit more towards 1, so slightly below average, but they're probably going to be careful with him. I don't expect him to go that late into the game, but still, overall for power, slightly below average matchup. Playing in a dome, so you don't have to worry about weather too much at this point in the season, and the odds do not reflect how good this guy is. Again, I'm expecting close to 40 home runs. I would say at least, if he stays healthy, 35 home runs. And at this moment, looks like he should be fine to go. So overall, drastically undervalued guy, and getting plus 500 in a slightly below average matchup just seems silly. And I know Sean agrees with me. He likes Burger too this season.
Yeah, I mean, great name for a power hitter as well. Just all the beef. Now, Burger, just something I caught on to quickly. Worse last year against lefties than righties, with splits. Like, don't take small sample sizes for splits, especially lefties. Batters don't face lefties that often in a season. If you go to his career splits, same WRC plus against lefties and righties, neutral hitter career splits. Don't just isolate that 2024 season and go, oh, he's worse against lefties than righties. That's a little weird. No, he's neutral for his career. So just anytime you're looking at splits, try to get a bigger sample if you can. You'll generally be more accurate in terms of that measurement.
That'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets that you've just heard from today's episode, look for the quick slip link in the episode description. And don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to the podcast. Check out the Action Network's Discord as well to chop it up with action experts as well as fellow gamblers. There's a link to join in the episode description. For Sean Zerillo and Grant Neiffer, I'm Mike Calabrese. We'll be back for Friday Best Bets. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. Good luck with all your bets, and we'll see you next time.